Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Nearly 1 year after a man died in a San Diego jail, his death is now being investigated as a homicide. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The county medical examiner's autopsy report was just released today. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado has the details.
46-year-old Lonnie Newton Rupert was found unresponsive in his cell at the San Diego Central Jail on March 17th of last year. He was taken to the hospital where he died. The initial report in 2022 did not give a cause of death, but did describe the National City resident as a repeat offender that had to be supervised. Now, nearly a year later, the medical examiner's report says Rupert suffered from severe mental illness and at the time of his death had pneumonia, malnutrition, dehydration, and COVID. His death has been declared a homicide.
The medical examiner, the deputy medical examiner, is not going to list something as a homicide if she is not convinced that it is, hands down.
Paul Parker is the executive officer of the County Citizens Law Enforcement Review Board. He used to be a medical examiner and investigator. He says these decisions aren't made lightly.
External factors played a role in the death. That's really what it comes down to, and that should not have happened, that someone had a duty to provide care, and that did not happen in this case. If we had jurisdiction over the medical care providers, that we would get the full picture of the deaths that are occurring.
The autopsy report says Rupert had a history of mental illness and refused treatment and care multiple times. He was one of nearly 24 people who died in custody of the Sheriff's Department last year. Sheriff Kelly Martinez says she ran on a platform of improving conditions inside the jails and on transparency. She says she immediately released the report when her office received it. But the most important thing to her is the victim's family.
First and foremost, I just want to say that my heart goes out to Mr. Rupert's family, his loved ones, and anyone who really is affected by this death.
Next, she says, if indeed this is a homicide, then the investigation she started last year that is yet to be completed will find that too.
Our homicide unit will finish their investigation and submit that to the district attorney for review. We're also going to be submitting that to the U.S. attorney.
Martinez says that about 10% of the jail's population need medical decisions made for them, but they can't legally do that.
We need to develop, new ways of helping these folks. Someone else needs to make the medical decisions on their behalf to keep them safe.
Martinez says she's committed to compassionate care for everyone in custody and feels that a separate facility for inmates with mental health issues would be the solution. They're in the process of hiring a consultant to see if that can be possible. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
The city of San Diego just released a draft of its plan to reach net zero greenhouse gas emissions by the year 2035. But KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer says climate activists want more details and a specific timeline on how that's actually going to happen.
The draft of San Diego's Climate Action Implementation Plan includes 6 strategies to reach the net zero goal, from cutting natural gas emissions from buildings across the city and providing public access to clean and renewable energy, to improving transit options that don't involve cars and waste reduction. The plan also calls for restoring green spaces and pursuing further technological advancements to improve the climate.
So we are cautiously optimistic because even though the plan is finally out, it's still missing important deadlines and benchmarks, as well as costs for many of its actions.
The Climate Action Campaign is suing the city over its lack of climate action deadlines. Brenda Garcia Millan is a researcher with the group and says specific steps in the plan are crucial.
To show its residents that it's actually committed not only to fight the climate crisis, but to actually address the most pressing needs of communities.
She says some of those pressing needs include addressing pollution and the impacts of more extreme weather events. But Mayor Todd Gloria pushes back on the notion it doesn't provide detail.
The implementation plan becomes very specific, and you get to the department and awful of how we're going to take those lofty goals and make them real.
Garcia Millán says the city needs hard deadlines in funding to implement its climate goals, or it won't make its 2035 target for net zero emissions.
The cost of inaction will be much higher than whatever the plan ends up costing the city.
Gloria says San Diego has already added electric vehicles to its fleet, rolled out organic waste recycling, and transitioned city accounts to renewable energy, which are all part of the climate action plan. He also says the implementation plan will continue to be updated, and he hopes other communities will follow suit.
When innovation occurs, we want to immediately thread that into our plan so we can take advantage of that. When we find roadblocks that are going to slow things down, we need to be dynamic and be able to respond to that as well. So this document will continue to be refined throughout its life.
The city's Environment Committee will discuss the implementation plan on March 9th. Garcia Millán says her organization will be rallying at City Hall that day to make sure tangible steps are being taken to meet San Diego's 2035 net zero goal. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
The federal government extended the tax filing for those affected by winter storms, and California is doing the same. Governor Gavin Newsom made the announcement today. The new deadline for filing state taxes is October 16th. That's the same as the federal returns. San Diego is one of many counties included in the list of affected counties. Imperial County is not on that list. With all the rain and snow we've seen this winter, you probably won't be surprised to learn the drought across California has improved, and by a lot. KPBS reporter John Carroll looked into how all that precipitation has affected reservoirs in our county.
First, more on the drought news. Just 3 months ago, almost all of California was in drought, including at extreme and exceptional levels, the highest levels possible. Warnings went out from state water officials to expect only a fraction of requested water allocations. Then came the storms, one after the other. 9 atmospheric rivers pummeled California between late December and mid-January, and we've had plenty of precip since then. Data from the U.S. Drought Monitor says nearly 17% of the state is now free of drought or abnormally dry conditions. 49% of the Golden State is now in moderate or severe drought, and the rest of the state is abnormally dry. So, how has all that rain and snow affected the more than 20 reservoirs in San Diego County? We asked San Diego County Water Authority Water Resources Specialist Efren Lopez.
Majority of the reservoirs in the San Diego County are used as storage for our imported water, but some of them are capturing some of that rainfall, and the reservoir levels are increasing.
As of last week, Lake Murray was more than 75% full, and while that's good, it is a number, like that with all of our reservoirs, that needs to be put into perspective. A spokesperson for the city of San Diego says this season's storms have contributed about 36,000 acre-feet of water to the city's 9 reservoirs, equaling approximately 10 billion gallons. Sounds like a lot, but that's only enough to supply city residents with water for less than 3 months. And it's important to remember where we were when the wet season started.
We're starting the water season after 3 years of consecutive dryness, and we saw last year, we saw great precipitation in October and December, and then we had the 3 driest consecutive months that we've had in a very long time.
Efren Lopez says whatever precip that falls on or runs into the county's reservoirs is really just an added bonus. And it's worth remembering that California is still years away from completely recovering from years of dry weather. Experts say it will take years to replenish groundwater supplies here and across the state. John Carroll, KPBS News.
Once again, the City of San Diego and the city's Housing Commission are activating its shelter program for inclement weather. It happens whenever temperatures are low enough to open up emergency space. All are located in the downtown area at Father Joe's Villages, Living Church of the Nazarene, and San Diego Rescue Mission. The number of beds available, check-in times, and type of people served vary by location. For those looking into buying a home, plan to spend even more money for a loan. New numbers from the Federal Loan Corporation, Freddie Mac, shows the rate for a fixed 30-year mortgage is up for the fourth straight week. It's now at 6.65%, and that's still a bit lower than November when the rate hit 7%. Freddie Mac says overall applications are down for the third week in a row. And those who receive food assistance will have to keep a closer eye on their spending soon. Shelly Malashi tells us how those on the SNAP program will have to get by with less.
Starting this month, it's going to get harder for millions of American families on food stamps to afford groceries. On Wednesday, additional benefits allocated for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, ended nationwide.
It's a big impact no matter what age group you're looking at.
Lawmakers voted to end that additional emergency funding last month, 3 years after they approved it during the COVID-19 pandemic.
And with the allotments going away, people will be back to an average of only $6 a person a day for food. That's what the SNAP allotment is.
According to the latest federal data, in November, more than 42 million Americans were getting food stamp assistance. Now recipients will be getting a reduced amount, an average of about $90 a month less in benefits.
My income hasn't changed, so I have to find another way to make up that money that we were getting.
The end comes at a really difficult time. Low-income families are already struggling to stretch their dollars to purchase essential items amid high inflation.
I'm going to have to go to a food bank now. I don't want to have to go to a food bank.
So what can you do? The USDA recommends applying for other food and nutrition services if you qualify, like the Summer Food Service Program. Last year, Congress passed legislation that created a permanent program providing funds to families of about 30 million children to buy groceries in place of school meals during summer break. And there's also WIC, the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for women, infants, and children. For Consumer Watch, I'm Shelly Malashi.
The view from space gives us a different perspective on the storms that hit California in recent weeks. NASA shared these images taken by the Earth Observatory satellite over Los Angeles County, and you can see just how much snow covers the area after a series of cold winter storms. Now, the first photo was taken on February 10th, and the second was taken just a couple of weeks later on February 26th. And now that the snow has stopped falling, we are getting a better look at more of the damage that it caused. This drone video shows the caved-in roof of the only grocery store in the town of Crestline. And that's near Lake Arrowhead in the mountains north of San Bernardino. More than 2 feet of snow fell in the area in just 2 days this week. The shop owner says they tried to shovel snow off of the roof, but they couldn't keep up with how fast it was falling. It's a similar scene in Northern California where a church was heavily damaged by the weight of snow. Steve Large talked with the pastor in the town of Forest Hill near Lake Tahoe.
Honestly, I just gasped, and I don't normally gasp. That's not something I do. And I just saw it, it's like, ooh.
Pastor Daniel Cordova describes the spectacular sight. His church building transformed into debris.
There are trusses that go over the top of the whole thing.
Heavy snow weighing down the massive rooftop, forcing the collapse, the roof caving in overnight. No one was hurt.
God had breathed into Adam the breath of life.
This is a video of a recent sermon inside the Calvary Chapel Church, showing it before the damage. These photos show the aftermath inside. Pastor Cordova took these snapshots of the wreckage, the cross still clinging to a wall.
I was passing through here today looking at some things and saw our big cross on our front wall, and I thought, if I don't believe in resurrection now, I should get out of the business,
The church roof collapse followed a deadly Forest Hill porch collapse a day earlier. An 80-year-old woman killed standing beneath it. Heavy snow has hit this Forest Hill community hard. People who live here are now in survival mode.
I've never seen it this bad. This is, it's pretty horrible.
It's like way too much. Limbs are snapping. The lady passed away. There's trees down everywhere, cars. It's incredible, it really is.
PG&E crews have been out in full force trying to restore the power to this community cut off by downed trees.
This would be evidence that you should probably clear your roof off.
Now, a pastor seeking a new place for his parishioners. His church in shambles, his spirit unbroken.
We haven't been able to meet in here because of the weather, because of, several feet of snow. And so we're just grateful that nobody was in it, not even a chance of people being in it.
Well, our historic week of weather is winding down now, and we're getting into a drier pattern, and we should say dry into the weekend. And temperatures will start to rise a little bit over the next couple of days, but they'll still be well below the historical averages. And some breezy conditions will be into the weekend for some, especially in the mountain areas and the deserts. And the flow turning onshore, does look like we could actually see a little drizzle coming in here by Sunday. So looking at tonight, mainly clear and chilly. Our low temperature in the metro 44. Not as cold as last night, but there still could be some pockets of frost in some of these interior valleys here. Ramona, we're down to freezing. In Mount Laguna, the low 34, and there you can see El Cajon at 38. So a night to dress warmly. And on the future cast, well, we don't see anything to be concerned about with the cloud cover or precipitation. So we're back to a dry forecast for you. And for tomorrow, we could actually see some temperatures here creeping up into the 60s, some of the interior valleys here. Escondido, 62, El Cajon, 63, San Diego, the high, 62. And Borrego Springs with sunshine, 67. As we take you into the weekend, we will see a system impacting northern California with showers and mountain snow. That will turn our flow onshore. So we will see the prospects are more in the way of some clouds from Sunday to Monday. It could see some spotty showers and some drizzle in the area as well. But it certainly gets a little bit cooler. And as we head to the inland sections, temperatures will trend down a little bit as that flow turns onshore, clouds and sunshine. And as we take you up into the mountains here, temperatures will stay in the 40s, and the winds will be active at times. And as we take you out to the desert, well, it's pretty much dry forecast here. A little bit cool, though, as we take you into Sunday and Monday. And for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
We've long known about the sewage polluting the ocean off of South County beaches, but now, as KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson tells us, researchers say it is also polluting the air.
Billions of gallons of sewage-tainted water has flowed across the international border and out into the ocean in the past few months. The South County beaches were closed most of this year because of health risks, but the dirty water is also impacting air quality. Scripps Institution of Oceanography researcher Kim Prather says sea spray from waves is carrying bacteria out of the water and into the air. She says people are worried about the health threat, but that hasn't been studied yet.
You can see it in the air, but what is physically getting into people in terms of respiratory? And so we're also starting to look at, we want to start looking at hospital admissions, and we also are looking at what gets indoors.
Researchers sampled the air in Imperial Beach between January and May in 2019. They also sampled water in the Tijuana River and found aerosols from the ocean contained the same bacteria and contaminants present in the river. Matthew Pendergraft is the paper's lead author. He says the report gives added urgency to efforts to fix the region's contamination issues.
We have an infrastructure problem that's causing not only polluted water, but here this research demonstrates that people in coastal communities like Imperial Beach are exposed to coastal water pollution even without entering that water.
It's unclear what the health risks are. Researchers are trying to determine whether the airborne bacteria poses a risk like it does when bacteria is in the water. If there are health risks, it may lead to warnings about air quality when the weather churns up a lot of sea spray. Findings are published in the current edition of the journal Environmental Science and Technology. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
Well, California has long been a bastion of pro-choice policy, even more so since the demise of Roe v. Wade in 2022. But anti-abortion crisis pregnancy centers still outnumber abortion clinics in California and in San Diego County. KPBS's Amitha Sharma has more.
If you want to keep your baby and you want to be a mom, I would encourage you to do so. There is a community of people who want to see you succeed.
This video is from the Pregnancy Care Clinic website. The clinic is one of 16 crisis pregnancy centers in San Diego County. Similar centers operate nationwide, and advocates and regulators say some perpetuate confusion over the services they provide.
First and foremost, they don't provide abortions. They don't even provide abortion referrals. They don't provide contraception.
California Attorney General Rob Bonta says scores of crisis pregnancy centers across California misrepresent themselves and they manipulate women.
They generally want to counsel you away from seeking an abortion, and people who are seeking an abortion come in and they're asking themselves, why am I here?
The Alliance, a statewide women's rights and gender equality group, found nearly 180 of these centers operating in California. The centers outnumber abortion clinics in San Diego and in the state. The single mom in the Pregnancy Care Clinic video describes her ordeal. She's grappling with finishing her education and trying to pull her family out of poverty. She says her loved ones were clear about what she should do.
They wanted me to get an abortion, and it was devastating.
She says she canceled 2 abortion appointments. After scheduling a third, she phoned a friend at Pregnancy Care. The friend first urged her to come in for an ultrasound to see her unborn child, who she named Zion.
As soon as I saw Zion, he was waving. He was like, hi, I'm right here.
She says she sobbed.
Because I was feeling ashamed of myself for wanting to get an abortion.
Pregnancy Care Clinic did not respond to an interview request from KPBS. Christine Henneberg is a family physician based in Northern California who performs abortions. She says ultrasounds are a key tool of many crisis pregnancy centers.
I've had women say to me, you're not going to make me look at the ultrasound, are you? Or, they tell me the last place I went, they made me look at the ultrasound, even though I didn't want to see it.
San Diego County Supervisor Tara Lawson-Remer has harsh words for the industry.
They're really preying on women at a vulnerable moment and offering often misleading information that limits our choices and our reproductive freedom.
There is nothing deceptive about what we do.
The woman you just heard operates a local center. She did not want to reveal her name or that of her facility out of fear she would be targeted. And KPBS altered her voice. She says when a pregnant woman enters her center, the staff provides her with evidence-based information from the CDC. The goal is to confirm her condition, determine how far along she is, and make sure the pregnancy is viable.
Everything is done by her wishes and what she desires, because she is our primary focus, her care, that she is respected and treated with dignity. That is what we do.
She says her staff educate women on the different forms of abortion, what they should ask their doctors, and the after effects of a pregnancy termination. But she says her facility is not a crisis pregnancy center.
A crisis pregnancy center is a very antiquated term, and now it's a derogatory term.
Her place does not offer abortions or referrals because she says they are not within its scope.
Isn't that really then the definition of a crisis pregnancy center?
Retired San Diego OBGYN Nisa Whiteman says the centers have been around for decades.
Well, in the best of all worlds, they shouldn't exist.
A 2015 California law required the centers to disclose if they aren't a licensed medical provider, but the U.S. Supreme Court struck it down in 2018, saying it violates free speech rights. Amitha Sharma, KPBS News.
And the story was completed with information from the Reveal Reporting Network. You can have stories like Amita's sent straight to your mobile device. Our feature reporting, daily headlines, and the KPBS Arts Calendar are just some of the content that we offer as a newsletter. And you can sign up anytime at kpbs.org. One day after another congressional hearing on safety at airports, there are new problems on America's planes. Ivan Rodriguez tells us about some of the incidents raising new questions about the safety of air travel.
This scattered debris, the aftermath of major turbulence on board a flight from Texas to Germany, resulting in 7 people transported to hospitals and the plane diverted to Virginia. Meanwhile, another flight from Dallas to Orlando diverted to Jacksonville and landed safely after smoke filled the cabin. The Spirit Airlines crew reported a battery in an overhead bin caught fire.
It was lucky that we got to it right away. We averted a major problem.
And in Pennsylvania, a suspect making his first appearance in court Thursday, accused of trying to bring explosives in his checked luggage.
The airport process seems to have stood up and worked as intended, which is definitely a good sign.
These air travel disturbances are the latest in what appears to be a growing list of incidents that have left flyers on edge, including 5 near collisions involving commercial planes on U.S. runways this year.
The pilots did a really incredible job. I mean, we came in, it was a scary situation.
President Joe Biden's nominee to lead the FAA, promising to protect air travelers at a confirmation hearing this week.
The safety of the traveling public will remain my top priority.
While the head of the NTSB has called for a safety review.
We have to make sure that our focus is first and foremost on safety. The aviation community and aviation is incredibly safe. We are the gold standard.
Ivan Rodriguez, KPBS News.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.